Welcome to episode 4 of the Trailside podcast. In this series, I speak to cyclists from all over the world who are involved in the Kona Ambassador Cycling Programme. In this episode, I speak to Erica Kutz from Bellingham about cycling along cliff edges and some other epic adventures. Thanks for coming along and giving me some time. So maybe if you just kind of introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about how cycling kind of is involved in your life.
Yeah, so I just joined the Kona Ambassador team about a little less than a year ago, and I've been riding bikes, I guess, as long as I can't even remember when I first learned, but I remember being on a training bike in the grass and my dad pushing me so that I didn't fall over. But ever since then, I've been using bikes as I think one of my favorite modes of transportation, and especially in college when I didn't really have a car or anything. And I mean, I didn't have a car in high school either. But in college, I didn't own a car, and I just used bikes as my main form of transportation, and I was really passionate about using them for sustainable transportation and exercise and just getting around in a super fun way. And that got me into bike touring, bike packing, and then I recently got into mountain biking, as many people did back in the pandemic, and that just reinvigorated, I think, my passion for cycling. And mountain biking has really shown me kind of a whole new side of Bellingham. That's where I'm based here, Bellingham, Washington, and I was born and raised in the Seattle area, so it's been really fun kind of getting to explore the area again through bikes. Yeah. Cool.
It must be a pretty early start for you to join this podcast. What time is it there?
It's 6 a.m. I'm an early riser by nature, so this is good motivation for me to get started for winter season, because I'm a snowboarder as well, and But I work from home. I'm a freelancer, so I kind of make my own schedule, and when I have a meeting or whatever, it really gives my day more structure. And so I'm oh, sweet. Okay. An early start. That means I was up late, designing logos and stuff, but I was kind of excited to have an early start so that I could accomplish more today.
Cool. And so you're freelance. Is it a designer you work as, a graphic designer? Or?
Yeah, graphic designer, brand strategist. I'm also an art director and producer, so I work with a lot of photographers and videographers to produce content for brands and design. So mainly I'm a brand identity specialist, and that usually kind of builds out into all the different expressions of a brand. So whether that be the logo design, the look and the feel of the photos, the videos, illustration style, whatnot. So kind of collaborating with a lot of different folks on that kind of stuff. But it's super fun. Yeah, this is my first year of doing it full time, but I've been designing and doing art freelance for the last 10 years, moonlighting.
Cool. And how does that kind of tie in with cycling? So when I started this podcast, I want to talk to kind of everybody in the cycling industry, but being on the Kona Ambassador Program, I just had a pool of people to reach out towards and get started straight away. So how I know the cool thing about Kona is for the Ambassador Program, they're not just interested in who can go the fastest down the hill or who can go the fastest and do the biggest jumps. They kind of a lot of people that kind of incorporate their lifestyle into their cycling. So how does the kind of graphic design side of thing, or just I suppose the creativity, revolve around cycling in your lifestyle?
Yeah, so I think one thing is that Kona has such a broad reach of people that they can really like connect with, because they have such a like range of bikes. Like they're not only mountain bikes, they're not only cycling, like touring bikes. Like they really want to become that kind of everybody's brand. And I think it's great that like everyone has so many specialties. Like there are so many badasses on the team and super creative folks. And my specialty is primarily in the outdoor industry. So I work with clients like in the outdoor sphere, which includes cycling. And I'm relatively new to mountain biking. I mean, 3 years is not that long. And yeah, my primary offering with Kona is brand storytelling. So like how do I use and how do I integrate Kona in my everyday life? And that can be commuting on my Kona Sutra and bikepacking with that and exploring the back mountain roads to go find turns on my split board. And you know, I do like illustrations like after those adventures. Like I like to kind of combine photo and illustration like overlays and kind of collages.
Yeah.
Like I really love doing that style just because it's a fun way to just like share art but also like share a story and like share an experience. So
awesome.
Yeah, and then mountain biking is kind of the same thing. Like that's, you know, a couple times a week I'll head up to the mountains or the foothills and just get some laps in for fun, for exercise, and just to connect with friends in the landscape here.
Is there much of a mountain biking season left for you, or when is the snow coming?
You know, there really is no end to the mountain biking season up here. I realized, like I thought, so I started mountain biking down at Crystal Mountain, which is kind of in the foothills of Mount Rainier. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the Pacific Northwest and the Cascades. Have you ever been over here in Washington before?
No, the furthest I've gone into the US was Orlando. We went to Disneyland. I was lucky enough to go when I was a little kid, and I did visit Canada. My sister's there, but I've never ventured that far over in North America. I would love to, but I've seen some amazing things and up in those mountains, and I would love to try get there someday.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's amazing. It's endless, but. Yeah, I would just kind of give you like a little bit more context. So Mount Rainier is like the largest volcano in kind of the Cascade Range here in Washington. And the Cascade Range runs from like, you know, Canada, like it runs into the Canadian Rockies, like all the way down south, like towards California. So like, you know, it goes into Oregon, and it's just this kind of like fault line. So Mount Rainier's like foothills are super swoopy, really loamy, really like amazing for mountain biking, and tons of like, I mean, people road bike out there too because there's just so much beautiful terrain. It feels like you're in Alaska or something. And so in the pandemic, like living in a little like cabin in the woods, there's not that much to do other than like go trail running and mountain biking and everything. So got super into that, and that was like a more alpine style, so like less developed trails. Like there's no bike park down there. You're hiking your bike because it's so steep to climb some of these trails, but like over 2,000 vertical feet, you know, to get like a 4K like descent, and like sometimes you're right along like a cliff edge, and it's just like so epic and so beautiful down there. And it just really like was a cool way to explore the landscape, because I am a trail runner as well, but not as much with mountain biking now. So it was kind of a fun way to really just get deeper and explore more of that terrain. I know I'm kind of like rambling, but I hope that kind of like, provides a little bit more context.
Well, that's it's quite a change of cycling style, going from commuting and touring to extreme hike a bike up a mountain just to come back down again. Like, I know the pandemic kind of flipped everybody's lifestyle upside down, but what was it that kind of drove you to take up mountain biking? Was it just that you couldn't go anywhere touring bike or cycling because there was just nothing for you to go and everything was shut down? Or like, how did you end up taking up the mountain bike side?
So I had a super lightweight, this is before Kona, I had a super lightweight road bike that I had bought off a friend after college, and that was kind of my daily commuter when I was living in Seattle, because it was just nice to have like something really light and zippy to get around the city, to go to like different agency jobs that I was working at the time. And so living where I was, there's a highway that goes all the way to the east side of the state, passing through Mount Rainier National Park, and everything closed down. So the ski area closed. I was on the marketing team there, and we were just working from home, and the national park was closed because there was no one really there to work and manage and maintain the roads, because usually that's all covered in snow. And my friends and I decided, well, let's just bike up the highway with our snowboards and skis on our backs. Yeah. And go up the back side of the resort where we're technically in the national park and there's technically nothing illegal with this. And so we had a couple of really fun adventures doing that. Some kind of like learned lessons of like, okay, don't start at 11 a.m. You know, we need a little bit more daylight and a little bit more time to get out there. But it's super fun, like kind of multi-sport adventures. And I had, of course, you know, like mountain biking was kind of exploding, and I had a neighbor who used to be a rep for Specialized, and he was like, let me know if you ever want to borrow a bike. Like, I have a bike that I'm actually going to be selling, and you're welcome to take it out. You're welcome to go for a ride. And my partner at the time...
They're the best kind of friends.
Yeah, I know. It was like a carbon frame, like really beautiful.
Best sales tactic. Yeah. Oh, you know, you take that away for a weekend and have a go, and then we'll talk then. And then, of course, you fall in love with the bike and you have to buy it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, my first time mountain biking was actually earlier in that fall, before the pandemic, where I was able to go to Whistler for a bachelorette party, and that was like my first time jumping on a mountain bike. And so cool. I thought, wow, this is so much fun. You know, like being in those super bermy, really flowy, kind of intermediate beginner trails. I just was like, wow, this is amazing, but I can't afford this at the time. So Jim Jarnigan, he's a lift mechanic down at Crystal. He's an amazing human being, but he's a rep, and he was just super like, here you go, like you should try this out. And so you know, took it for a nice long ride. Like my partner at the time and I did a big loop over on the east side. So once the highway did open, to go see the wildflowers, and in this alpine zone. So it was like this 27-mile loop or so, and then you gain about 3,000 feet climbing up like the dirt road, like really gradual, and then you get up onto this like epic ridge line where there's like Mount Rainier, and then you have like the east side kind of desert side of the state on the other, and then there's just like wildflowers, and it's beautiful. And so we did that, and I was like, I had like high-waisted jean shorts on, and like not enough water and not enough food. Like, of course it took like, you know, half a day because I was so slow and I was just still figuring things out. But he was really encouraging and he was really awesome about it. And I was just like, man, these kind of like epic, like kind of suffer fests are so fun. Yeah. And like you just get to see so much, and you get to just like really push your body to the limit. So that's what really got me into like mountain biking. And that summer I finally decided to like buy my own. I got a Transition 2018 Smuggler off of a really rad gal up here in Bellingham named Kelsey. And she was like, this was my pandemic gift to myself. Like, she used it to recover from breast cancer, and she just like really connected with the bike, and she had just a great story with it. And so I like loved it and cherished it for a couple of years. And then, I got on with Kona and just got the process, and it's really just excelled my skills and my love for mountain biking as well.
Awesome. It's great when you have kind of friends like that in your circle that would be, come on, we go for a cycle, but then they push you, but in kind of an encouraging and friendly way, and like they bring you on these adventures. Well, I know when I was kind of first really getting into the mountain bike, and there's a couple of friends that we went out on adventures like that, kind of going up hiking trails that really are not designed to be cycled on, and we'd bring up the fat bikes, and we throw the bike on your shoulder and just wander through these open mountains, and there's only you and the sheep and the rain up in the mountains, but then you get to come tearing back down this hiking trail, and then you come down through the clouds, and like you're cursing and swearing the whole way up and wondering why am I doing this? This sucks. I hate this. Everything hurts. I'm hungry. I'm cold. I'm wet. And then you come back down again, and you get back down to the bottom, and you're like, that was a pretty epic adventure.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'd love to check out some of the trails over there, and how all through Europe it looks amazing. So
mainland Europe, and especially as well in the UK, they've a much more developed kind of mountain bike scene and network of trails and stuff. But in the Ireland, it's pretty far behind. But like the advantage of when we had fat bikes, I actually still have my fat bike, but I don't get to use it as much as I should. Where you can just kind of cycle along the hiking trails where you couldn't bring any normal bike, and you go out on days like that. There's a couple of times where like the trail would be so overgrown with bushes and thorn bushes, and you couldn't even get through there on the bike. And we could see the top of the mountain off to one side, and it was like, right, we're not going to follow the trail. We just throw the bike on our shoulders, hang her right, and just walk up the mountain until we get up the top, and then ride down along the side of the hill, not following any trail. Like we could see where the car was parked off in the distance. And so like this particular area in the west of Ireland is known as the Burren, but it's all limestone. There's very little plant life, so you can see for miles and miles in every direction. And it's like limestone with huge cracks everywhere, and you're just cycling across the top of it. So we could see where we had parked down by the beach, way off, and we literally just worked our way over all the rocks and climbing over walls through all these weird kind of places. Like you'd be cycling along, and next thing you know, there's a huge hole in front of you in the limestone that, like, even the fat bike tire will get wedged into, and then you'd hike a bike and you'd spend a couple of hours getting up to the top, and then you're down in a couple of minutes. And sometimes those kind of adventures really are the best.
Yeah,
they make the best memories.
Yeah, it's just the reward of, like, I mean, this is really cliche, but it's like the journey is the reward, and then it just creates like deeper bonds with your friends, and even if you might hate them for a little bit.
Like, whose idea was this?
I had this experience around this time a couple of years ago, like my first summer mountain biking, where I went on this like really long ride in Moab, Utah. And I had no idea like what to expect, because it was kind of like a last minute trip. Like I had a girls like bike packing trip organized, and I like drove out to Idaho and then like to like meet up with them and like caravan down to Utah, and like everyone bailed. Like I had driven like 10 hours from Washington, and I had like worked really hard to get the time off, and I get there and they're like, oh, I don't really feel like going anymore.
Oh, no.
And I was like, okay. I like bought all this bikepacking stuff like with my mountain bike, so it's like, I had to really figure this out, and now just like no one wants to go because it sounds too hard or like whatever. And so it was like, okay. And I had a friend like in Colorado, and he's like, let's just go ride Moab, like I'll just come meet you out there. And so he like organized all these rides for us to do, and we did like our first day in Moab was Mag 7 to Portal, And Mag 7 is like this long, like beautiful meandering trail, like through all these valleys. And then for like, 20 something miles. And then, in the heat of the desert. And then like Portal, you get to the very end. It's only like 2 or 3 miles long, but it's just like this like 200-foot drop off. Like a single track, like along a cliff edge, like down towards the river. And I was just like, he's like, oh yeah, you're a rock climber, like you're not scared of heights, right? And I was like, yeah, like I'm
but you don't climb a rock on a bike.
Yeah, like usually I'm on a rope and like that's chill, but it's just like you fall, you die, like you lose your bike, whatever. And there's like all these signs that say like caution, like people have died here, like please dismount, like do not ride your bike here, and like around certain corners because you could just kind of like slip out. And so that was like the only time I've ever cried a little bit on my mountain bike. Because I was like so done and like so tired and so dehydrated, but like I like got to the very end and like I wasn't like visibly crying, but there was just like tears like kind of like coming out of my eyes because I was like so like freaked out. And we like got down to the bottom, like the Colorado River, and I just like we still had like a couple miles to ride on road to get back to the car. And I was like, I'm just going to go for a swim. Like, I just like took, like, there was like people like on the other side of the river, but I like just did not care. Like, I just like took all my clothes off and I was like, I'm just going to go in the water and like soak in because I can't, like, I don't have any water on me. So just like via osmosis, I was like, so just like done with this ride. And my friend Satchel was like, he's like, there's like people over there. Like, do you not care? And I was like, I don't care about anything. I'm just like happy to be alive right now. So that was like a super fun intro to Moab. And the next day we rode the whole enchilada, which is like a 7,000-foot like downhill, I think. Like you get a shuttle to the top. And I
think I've heard of that one before. I've heard the name referenced before.
It's super popular. Like we were like leapfrogging with groups like the entire time. But it was so much fun. Like that first day of like suffering a little bit, like made the next day, like even though it was a longer day, like mileage and I think like descent, it was just a total blast. I was like, I would do this, like I'd do this again. But like your arms are just like jello after all that. But those long days can just be like, I mean, I just was super grateful to have him to like show me around that summer and like really just go on these like crazy epics and just like, let's just go do something stupid.
That's definitely a trial by fire. Like no better way to learn how to go mountain biking than throw you into the deep end and cycle you along the edge of a cliff.
I know. And I've been like so grateful to have a community of really amazing like shredder ladies up here in Bellingham. Like Lacey, the Kona manager, has just been amazing, like just bringing me into the community here, and like all the gals up here are just like down to shred and session things. Like we'll go up to Galbraith and we'll hit like a big rock roll or a big rock drop, and everyone will kind of like talk through it and talk about how they ride it, and then someone will like demonstrate it, and then so it just becomes this really cool like opportunity to like encourage and elevate people to like push their limits in a safe way, because I feel like mountain biking is I was so afraid of getting into it because I thought I was just going to get my face punched in, but like, and I like have and did, like, I feel like Moab, I'm just like, what the hell is that? But knock on wood, have not had any like major injuries. But like, I think it's pretty avoidable. Like you can kind of just work your way like up to bigger things. It's kind of like skiing. Like you don't have to be sending like huge cliff drops on your first day. Like it's, unless you want to, I mean, but it's probably not going to end well.
Yeah, I think I've kind of gone the other way now. Like when I was kind of taking up mountain bike, and I used to cycle when I was a kid, but then just didn't through my later teens and kind of early 20s, and then kind of maybe mid-20s, I started taking up mountain biking again. And within the space of a year, I had gone from like, a pretty basic cross-country bike to a full-on downhill rig. And I was just throwing myself down everything I could get my hands on. And I think now that I'm in my mid-30s, I've mellowed out a little bit, and I kind of got back into the kind of cross country and the gravel and kind of adventure side of it, rather than just going as fast as I can down the hill.
Yeah.
Like I've never had any kind of major injuries, just small ones. Like, I kind of injured my shoulder, but it's never going to be right again, and kind of hurt my knee, and that's never going to be right again. But I never had to be, I never had operations, or I never had any real bad kind of stuff where I was hobbling around on crutches for a long time,
That's good.
thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely to have that kind of, that it's great to have this like a support structure if you're, when you're kind of brought into a community in cycling, because it's really not that big of a market here in Ireland. We've got such a small population. There's like 5 million people here, and the country itself is so small. We're just a tiny island on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. But like the fact that you can get out and go for a ride, and as you said, you can stop and session a section of the trail and kind of learn about it. I think that's really great to hear and see. And it doesn't matter if you're kind of older getting into cycling later on in life, or if you're a little kid getting into it and just love being outside, because I think I've come across too many cyclists that are like, right, we're going to follow this trail and we're just going to go. And we have to get around and we have to get to the end. And then you see something that like, if I had 2 or 3 more tries kind of coming over that, like that rock or that rough section of trail or those kind of routes, I might kind of get it. But they're like, no, we have to keep going. Come on, we'll get to the end. You can do it again some other time. I really like that whole idea of just kind of hanging around and just kind of edging each other on, but as you said, in a safe way to kind of learn. And I think that's really great.
Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been sandbagged like a lot by friends, but like that experience also just teaches you that like, hey, you can get down anything. Like you can just walk if you can't. I mean, sometimes it's actually like harder to walk than to ride.
Yeah.
Like, had some experiences where it's like, oh, if I knew how to ride this, like, that would be awesome. But, like, I'm not there yet. Like, something super steep and, like, I don't know, like, tight or whatever, or, like, a massive, like, rock roll. It's just, like, sometimes it's way harder to walk that and dangerous. But, like, those are the things you have to learn the hard way sometimes, like, and just having friends that can like talk you through things. But yeah, biting things off in small chunks. And I have like no desire to become a professional like mountain biker or whatever. So I'm kind of like, whatever's fun. Like I'm just here to have fun. Like if I'm not having a good time, then I'm doing it wrong. So it's like, just having that attitude of like just making it fun and like not being hard on yourself, because like honestly in the end, like it's just bikes, like who cares?
Yeah, like I do some of the local kind of cross country races, just to kind of get out and support the series, and so they get my little bit of an entry fee, and I've got kids, like, so I bring my 2 daughters along when they're in the mood to cycle. If they're not, I don't make them go, but if they are, then great. And my partner has gotten into mountain biking, so she's enjoying it as well. But I do like the kind of suffer for an hour on a cross country loop and get a couple of laps in, but at the same time I'm not like that all the time. It's really just, cycling is a great way to just get out and kind of enjoy yourself. And I'm not there to set times, like you said. I know I have no aspirations to be a professional mountain biker. I'm long past that. But it's definitely great just to be out and having fun. Like, and if you go out in a group of friends and literally just go have some fun. But there's definitely times when I've been sandbagged and I'm like the last one up the top of the fire road and I'm dying, and like everyone's just there, like, nice and refreshed, and they're like, yeah, you ready to get going? And I'm like, oh my God, I've only just gotten here. Like, you've had the last 5 minutes to rest. Wait a minute, please.
My partner has been like amazing for just joining in on some of these crazy rides. Like, same situation. We're both just like pushing each other up this like fire road, and we're both just like, oh my gosh, this is like, for some people, like this amount of like vertical and mileage is like for climbing like a volcano and like ski touring it or something, like, but it's on bikes. And so it's like, we have no idea what this trail's like on the way down, but we just like, our positive attitudes, I think, like, are infectious, and we're just like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, what is this? Like, like moto trails like out in Eastern Washington, it's like they can be so chewed up and like so variable, but it's like just finding ways to like push yourself, and I think like push each other is just like been a really like my partner and I have been mountain biking around the same time or for the same amount of time, and so like he's better at it than me, but we love like just cheering each other on and pushing each other and showing each other new trails. And I think that aspect like just creates like a really awesome bond too. Like, we're kind of in this together, like any adventure. I think it's great. And just being there to like support each other and cheer each other on and kind of spread that stoke, and then just be kind of like, holy shit, like, let's go jump in the river and just like chill the rest of the day. But I was like training for this longer ride up here in Bellingham. Like Rafa came up and did a Specialized, or not Rafa Specialized, sorry, Rafa Prestige. They usually do like gravel and like road bike things, but this was like their very first mountain bike one, and some girlfriends were signing up for it, and I kind of like got talked into it as well. And it was I think 55 miles and over 8,000 vertical feet in a day on a mountain bike. And sorry, I know that's all imperial, but I'm sure you can do the calculations.
Divide it by 3 or multiply. Yeah, I'll get 3. It somewhere. And then I'll get the.
Divide by 3. Yeah.
Because I'd be in meters and kilometers.
Yeah. And so that was like a day. Like we all kind of. I was just talking to a buddy last night, and he's like, "Yeah, like." You don't want to like do that to your body all the time. Like he's like an exercise biologist, or like exercise like he's really passionate about that. And he was like, it's like not good for you to do that all the time. Like you can actually like trigger some things in your body that will create like metabolic damage. Like don't bonk. So like learning how not to bonk on these bigger days has been like an experiment.
I've definitely done that a few times when I'd be cycling along, and then I was like, right, I know I'm going to be on the bike for ages, or if I'm on the gravel bike, whatever, I'm going to go off and do 100 kilometers, which is about like 63, 64 miles, with about 1,000 meters worth of climbing, which is about 3,000 feet ish. And I'm thinking, okay, I know I've got all my water, I've got my food, I know I kind of keep nibbling away every kind of few minutes just to keep the food coming and the water coming. And the next thing I'm kind of tipping along on the bike, and I realize, oh crap, I'm pushing way too hard. And it's like I got to back down again, and then I'm okay, I'm in a good spot now, I'm cycling along, and then I look at my speedo again, and it's like, oh crap, I'm putting out way too much power again. And then of course halfway through I'm dead. I am bonked. I like my legs just do not have it anymore, and like I get to the finish and I can barely unclip or step off from the bike, and I'm just I'm sore for like 3 days afterwards. I can't, like, walking up and down the stairs in the house is a chore. Yeah.
But then you grow stronger and and wiser.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like in theory, but I don't seem to learn from my mistakes, because I go out and do the exact same thing again.
Right.
So like I know Bellingham seems to be pretty famous for the cycling and mountain bike scene. Like, or the area you're living in, are you literally at the foot of one of the mountains there? Can you cycle from your front door and up a trail?
Yeah, I can. I'm not like at the base of Galbraith, but I'm a few minutes away, and I'm like a 10-minute bike ride to Galbraith. But it is honestly like changed the way that I see Bellingham. I went to school here back in 2011, and it wasn't quite the same, because like I knew people who mountain biked. Like I had girlfriends who were super into it. Like they would come back like super stoked, like, oh my gosh, like it's amazing. And I'm like, how do you guys have money for these bikes? Like they look so expensive, and it sounds like you're breaking them all the time, and you're breaking your faces all the time. People would like, come to parties like, broken wrists or, broken teeth and whatever. It's just like, this sounds kind of like, I don't know if I'm into this. Like it sounds kind of dangerous. But it's really like changed the way I see Bellingham as just this like bike town. I mean, there's so much terrain here, all over. I mean, and then Canada is right there. So, and which is like there's very different styles of trails up there. And, it's been super, super cool to be able to dive in and kind of like relate to a town differently, because I don't know, trail running is great, but I was just kind of getting like tired of the same trails like over and over again. But like mountain biking, there's just kind of like infinitely more, and there's always more people to go with, because not everyone wants to go on like a 10-mile trail run up a mountain, like way into the backwoods and whatever. Like I was kind of doing that stuff by myself, and I was like, I had bear spray and stuff, because there's like cougars and like, there's like, there's bears like if you go further out. And I mean, I love some alpine trail running, don't get me wrong, like been able to do quite a bit of that this summer as well, but you can't always bring bikes out on those trails, so love that kind of stuff. But in Bellingham, it's just like so easy to just like, and sorry for blowing up the spot, but like it's just so easy to like, if you're working from home, like, okay, I have an hour, I'm just gonna go like pedal my bike. You can just go do like a 30 or 40 minute lap, and it's just like, a total like instant mood booster.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like getting outside just to kind of unwind before you have to sit back down and concentrate on something, just to give you that little bit of a stress relief.
Yeah, and it's like great to commute on bike here too. I mean, there are some hills, but I did like a mural recently, like across town, and I just like rode my bike to the mural every day. Like I filled up my panniers with all my paint supplies, and just it was awesome. Like it was like, no, just because I can, I will. Like I'll just do this. And it was a fun project. So yeah, definitely excited to do more bike commuting, because you put some fenders on and it's fine in the rain. It's not bad.
I can't imagine being out on my mountain bike and having to bring like bear mace with me, because like we have nothing like that here. Like the biggest danger is if you go to cross a farmer's field and there happens to be a bull in it. Like the only real danger to your on the mountain bike trails is you. But that seems like such a weird concept that I'd have to bring something along to protect myself from being mauled by a wild animal.
Yeah, there's stuff that happens. In Washington, like a couple mountain bikers I think got like mauled by a bear just like an hour outside of Seattle. Like that's crazy, but I haven't heard of anything like that recently. So hopefully that people are becoming a little more like aware of where they're bear aware of where they're going. But yeah, no, it sounds super cool. Like so your experience reminds me a lot of New Zealand. Like I lived down there for a year, and there was like no predators or anything. But like
Ireland is, I think that even the climate is very similar to New Zealand, just the other hemisphere. Same weather, same kind of terrain. They have a little bit more mountains than we have and things like that. So it's pretty similar. But there's no poisonous snakes. There's no spiders. There's we don't even. The most you get is maybe a sting off some poisonous plants, and then you're itchy for half an hour, and then you're good to go again.
Yeah, it's a really cool. Just like, even the people, like, you don't really have to be that afraid of. I mean, I know in some of the more like urban areas there can be some crime, but the mountain biking.
Yeah, for the most part, it's pretty safe here. Yeah, luckily, we're pretty kind of fortunate in how it is. Like, no country's perfect, obviously, but yeah, with regards to kind of safety, like I I feel fairly safe walking through the city and stuff and everything. Like, I've no issues with that. But yeah, it's nice here. And like, so Bellingham, what's that like? It's just a good town to live in.
I'd say, I mean, there's definitely like a rising crime rate and a rising like homeless population and drug problem, because Washington, like, we do have so many services and we do have so many opportunities for people to get back on their feet, and sometimes that brings in a lot of folks from out of state, and I'd say that it is getting pretty bad. Like, some of the trails you can't ride because there's people like camped out on them. Some of the trails in the more urban areas. So, I mean, like any growing city, there's problems, unfortunately, and I think that the city's like trying really hard to grapple with that. Like, how do we navigate this? And like, how do we navigate this growing problem? But I guess, like, on the positive side of urban growth, like, it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for people in underserved communities to like get into bikes. Like, we have some really cool organizations like Vamos Outdoors, and like Kona, I know, has like, they donate bikes to these organizations, and they like, host opportunities for kids and like people to get out on bikes who like might not have access to some to gear like that, because I know that's a big barrier. It's just like cost and accessibility. So pros and cons of like urban growth, right? Like, there's like lots of cool opportunities to like reach out to some certain communities, and there's like other communities that are just like, there's like there needs to be more like city like politics like around like, how do we manage, like, do we need another jail or like whatever, I don't know. But for the most part, like, the city feels pretty safe. Like, I feel pretty safe in my neighborhood, but like it's still a city. Like, people still get shot and stabbed and things like that. So I guess it's just like, use your best judgment and don't like hang out in certain areas, or don't like, I don't know, go downtown certain times of the night by yourself. Like, but on a bike, like, I honestly feel so much safer. Like, if I'm riding from town or something, like, I just feel so much safer on a bike.
And is there a good kind of infrastructure there for cycling? Is, like, I know here in Ireland, like, some of our roads started off as horse tracks and donkey trails before anybody even knew North America existed. So like, it's not, they just slowly starting to widen the road over the years as cars and trucks got bigger. But a lot of the time, that like, there's very little kind of cycling lanes or cycling infrastructure, and here you're usually just trying to stay in the hard shoulder and avoid getting clipped by a wing mirror.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We do like have pretty good bike lanes and infrastructure for that, fortunately. I think like the city is working on building more. Like, there's a really cool kind of greenway. We have this whole kind of network, I guess, of trails called the interurban trails. And you can do basically like from like one side of the bay, you can ride that like all the way down towards like the other end of town, like way out of town. And you're kind of like following the sound, and you're kind of going through like the Chuckanut Mountains and the foothills, and it's just kind of this gravel trail. So we do have some really cool networks like that, and you can ride all up and through Galbraith and then down the other side of town. Like, you can do massive loops like that. And so, and then we do have like decent bike lanes. I think the city's like working on improving those in some of the main roads, like beneath the highway. We do have this one road called Lakeway, and that's not great for bikes, but like once you get past like the main kind of cluster, it's like the main area where everyone gets off the highway and gets on the highway, so there's just like a lot of car traffic, and then you're like, there's like a couple grocery stores and coffee shops, gas stations and whatnot, like more industrial. So there's just not the greatest like bike path there. So if I were to like talk to the city of Bellingham, I'd be like, can we just have like a bike lane through here, like a nice one? Because it's always just like so scary to ride your bike through there, and it's like,
Yeah.
I can just ride my bike to the grocery store, but like it's freaky. So I don't go to that grocery store that often, like, because I can't ride my bike there. Like, yeah, or I don't want to ride my bike there.
There's a lot of people pushing to improve the kind of the cycling infrastructure in the cities and larger towns here, but our big problem is because our cities and towns are so old. Like there are a lot of them are medieval towns, and we weren't affected by World War II. So I know through a lot of Europe, a lot of the cities were destroyed and rebuilt, but we weren't. So like a lot of the streets of the cities are super narrow, and you're trying to have like a sidewalk and pathway on the side of the roads while trying to fit the lanes of traffic. And then like there's no room to put a cycle lane anywhere. So if you have to commute through the city, a lot of the time, if you're going down some of the older roads through these narrow streets, it can be a bit dangerous. And then, there's a lot of impatient drivers sometimes, and then they get annoyed because there's a lot of inconsiderate cyclists as well. Sometimes they're running through red lights and stuff like, and it's just, you just kind of wish sometimes everyone would just play ball and kind of relax and calm down a second. We're all going to get everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's definitely getting better here. But we've, compared to the rest of mainland Europe and the UK as well, we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But it's always getting better.
Yeah, totally. Like I think that more and more people are becoming more conscious of bike commuting and whatnot. And yeah, just being able to understand like the rules of the road. I think that's a huge thing, is just like being a considerate cyclist too, and being spatially aware. I mean, there's always things to improve on both sides, right?
Yeah. As being a cyclist and a driver, I both hate cyclists and drivers.
Yeah.
But no, it's all good. Like, once everybody just kind of gets along.
Totally.
But yeah, well, I suppose. Well, thanks for giving me your time so early in the morning and getting out of bed at 6 a.m. to come on and have a chat with me. I really appreciate you giving me your time to have this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is super fun, and I'm excited to hear all the other stories that you discover.
Awesome. Great. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you so much, Colin.